Happy Thursday, everyone. It's good to see you. It is happy hour in the house. It's 6:30. We're at 6:30 today because the President of the United States decided he was going to address us about coronavirus, we thought. And it is actually, the topic of today was going to be, why do the statues matter, right? This is a discussion that's being had all over the place, and it's a discussion I wanted to have with you guys, and I told you we were going to have this chat. But today, as I listened to our commander-in-chief speak about this sort of an issue, and forgive me, the humidity is crazy in Philadelphia right now. I thought I would speak to you directly about, one, why the statues matter, and two, what we just heard. So grab your drink. It's a vodka cranberry kind of day for me. May today be better than yesterday. May tomorrow be better than today, and may all of your hopes and dreams come true. Cheers to you. Okay, so I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed, visibly disturbed for a couple reasons, and I want to kind of get into it with you. But as I listened to that speech, there was a phrase about schools opening which dealt with African American and Hispanic people, which I posted online. To briefly paraphrase the quote, it was that it's really important for the schools to reopen for African American and Hispanic. Actually, the term was used, blacks and Hispanics, because for blacks and Hispanics, the mental health facilities are available in the school, which are necessary because those communities are places of abuse and neglect. Yeah. So, I'm an American citizen. I've been an American citizen my entire life. I was born in this country. My family has fought for this country, served this country, medically treated this country, lawfully defended this country, financially advised this country, physically fed this country. For 13 generations counted. I carry within me a history which is not only African American by way of West Coast Africa, but also British by way of Captain Smith's relationship with Fran, Irish by way of Martha Moonaham's introduction to the family, and Irish slaves which were kept by that family. And that history has informed the statements I'm going to make to you now. The removal of statues in many places in the United States is important because it is a visual symbol of pain. And what we know scientifically about visual symbols is that they matter to us greatly. A simple thing like a smiley face or a frowny face in an emoji can change the way in which we feel about ourselves in a simple daily interaction. Statues like Lady Liberty in New York on Ellis Island have shown their light to millions around the world who have come to America for hope and freedom and a better life. These symbols, these beacons of light mean something. In Germany, statues of Adolf Hitler were removed after the fall of his regime, of the Nazi Party. As was the swastika as a national symbol, bastardized first from a symbol of strength into something horrific and wicked and awful, and it is now seen around the world as a very ugly symbol. You see, symbols matter to us. And I challenge you, as I've challenged other people, to look at those two symbols, the picture of Adolf Hitler and the swastika on a red flag, and tell me what your visceral response to those two symbols are. And if your visceral response is something like, ooh, or ugliness, or a gulp, or pain, or even more strongly associated because you are related to people who are perhaps Jewish, who went through Nazi Germany, and the atrocious behavior that that regime exhibited upon Hebrew people and others, where they burned them in ovens and gathered them up and tried to eliminate them from the face of the earth. If you get a guttural or visceral reaction to those two symbols, then I'm going to ask you to imagine what it must be like to be related to someone who the Confederacy and the symbols of the Confederacy enslaved, beaten, broken, raped, killed, pillaged, made it impossible for you to gain any bit of freedom or advancement within the society, not simply by a social understanding, but by a legal law on the book. Can you imagine being one of those people, one of those descendants of one of those people who climbed the steps of a building which was supposed to speak to the justice system in the United States, to enter into those steps, that justice system, and before you be confronted by a person who meant for you not to be included in that justice systematically? Can you imagine being confronted by symbols of hatred every day and knowing that those symbols mean something as a symbol of pride for some people in the country that you live in this place that you sit in this world? So I want you to think about the symbol of the swastika. And I want you to look at the face of Hitler, just Google it, and tell me what that first sickening response is to it, because we all have it, right? That guttural punch. And imagine what it must be like for people to look at the symbols of those Confederate men who meant them harm simply because of the color of their skin. And I want you to compare that to today, where the person who leads the country that they live in, that they fight for, that they work for, that they have helped to build, and I'm going to use help lightly because I can't begin to describe to you the amount of work that the people in this country who were slaves built this nation upon, because all of the money that America found here that made it America was built in the fields and that were plowed and hoed and tended by an enslaved people. The pain they must feel when they see those symbols. So when you say to me that it won't change the systematic understanding of racism in America, you simply are blithely unaware of what those symbols mean and the power of those symbols, because you are not affected by them. And we get back to this idea that you are simply not so important and so magnificent and so magnanimous that you get to decide what an entire population of people's pain can or cannot be, or what should cause it or not cause it, and whether or not those things should stay or be removed in the systems that were built to destruct who they are, how they are, and their ability to breathe in and out every day. And if you think of being dramatic, we can look at our law books now. Of the many Jim Crow laws which were formed in the United States of America, at least 19 of them exist on the books today. That's what allows people to be randomly stopped and searched when they are other than Caucasian. It's what allows police departments to criminalize one's color and to stop them and shake them down. Because they're brown, they're therefore suspicious. If you think I'm kidding, look at the laws of Philadelphia, which took that off of the books with the most recent mayor, Jim Kenney, because those laws existed on the books before then. They exist on those books in many other places, including New York City, which feels that it is okay to randomly stop and search people because of what color they are, because some colors of people in the United States are prone to criminality. It's what helps make statements like the one we heard today, that African American people and Hispanics need to be able to go back to school so that they can get the mental health they need for the abuse and neglect they receive at home. That's a quote from the President of the United States. But it's a quote which was written in the papers that he spoke from as he read from his briefing, which means it's an opinion which was shared not simply by him but by those around him, who when they checked his speech and edited out what was okay for the ears of America and not, they left that in. Perhaps wrote it in themselves. So you see these symbols that are around our country, these Confederate men who, by the way, as a side, lost the war. The North won, and the Union won. And America, these United States of America, exist today because the dream of the forefathers who were in the North and their ancestors in the North beat out the whim of Confederacy in the South, who felt that they could not continue on without the labor of those blacks, those enslaved people, and wanted to return to a system which would criminalize color and make into animals a group of people for the shade of their skin, so that one could use them for labor and the building of wealth without having a dirty conscience. That is the history of the people that we memorialize on staircases in front of buildings which are meant to signify justice, freedom, and liberty for all. I pray that you all Google the symbol of the swastika, that you share this message with others, that whenever someone says to you, "Why does that matter?" that you confront them with their blithe, ignorant thought process. And I choose the words blithe and ignorant because for me they are kinder. They are kinder because they suggest that the person simply is unaware and they just don't know. Because if I really thought hard about it and thought that the person was acting in malice and that what they were saying was meant from the deep depths of their heart, and they truly understood that these were symbols of pain and disgust and ugliness, and how much it meant to our ability to move forward to see these ugly symbols removed. If they really, really understood that, and they weren't ignorant, and they weren't blithe, then it would break my heart. And I hope it too would break yours. Because I dream of the America of my forefathers who fought hard to educate, to treat medically, to advise financially, to feed physically their fellow Americans, regardless of the hue of their skin, the religion of their practice, their orientation, their creed. I hope that we think on this and we stop asking people why it matters to remove statues of Hitler and swastikas from buildings and statues of Confederate soldiers and that Confederate flag. I hope that we dig into ourselves and ask ourselves as Americans why any American would want to fly a flag which does not belong to this nation, this union of these United States. Especially when that flag stands for so much pain, so much injustice, so much hate, which exists legally on law books today.